Redditors who've walked in on your partner or significant other cheating. How did you react in that moment? I had actually come home a week earlier than I was supposed to from the Air Force, and this was a good 15 years ago. I figured I'd surprise her since she'd always talk about how much she misses me, would always send me pictures of her in the mail, and write these long letters talking about our future together. Naturally, I assumed she would be more than excited to see me walk in the door a week early. So I pulled up to the house and figured she was home because her car was there, so I was as quiet as possible. I even parked my car down the street a little bit so she didn't see me pull up and ruin the surprise. Quietly put the key in the lock and slowly twisted, opened the door, and the living room was dark. I thought, maybe she got picked up by some friends and went out somewhere. Oh well, even better. I'll set up our room by going to get some flowers and making everything look all romantic and irresistible. Hey, it's been a few months and I was a bit pent up at this point. Started walking towards the bedroom and I hear this rhythmic squeaking noise followed by a deep grunt. My instinct reaction was someone broke in and is trying to rip something off the wall, so I went into kicking mode until a few seconds later, I heard a high-pitched moan of a female. Yeah, I recognized that sound pretty well and knew what was happening. Being in the military, I knew the worst possible thing I could do was anything violent, so I wanted to mess up whatever moment they were having. I walked towards the room very quietly while they went at it, and of course, they didn't hear me because they were far too deep in their actions. Luckily, the door was halfway open, so I got down and started crawling towards the bed, out of their line of sight, slithered over to the edge of the bed they were closest to, and started slowly inching my head up the side until just my eyes were above the edge. It took her a good minute, she was on the bottom, before she looked over and saw angry eyes staring at her. She freaked out so bad that she kicked the dude in the face and he fell off the bed and hit his head on the wall. She screamed louder than I've heard anyone scream in my life and bounced off the bed in a flailing, sweaty mess, and I heard her hit the ground with a satisfying thud. I stood up and the guy was in a heap on the floor, scared crapless at this dude in full military garb standing over him with crazy eyes. She finally realized who it was and started bawling her eyes out, saying, "I'm so sorry, I was lonely, blah blah blah, who cares?" I started laughing hysterically, and all I said was, "Well dude, she's your problem now, hope you don't mind herpes." Walked out and blocked her from my life, only to go on and date someone else who made my life miserable for the next 12 years. Man, I really know how to pick 'em. I brought home groceries one evening after work and found my boyfriend banging what I think was his coworker. I only ever met her once. Mind you, this is my apartment in my bed, which just made everything that much worse, and he still lived with his parents at the time. The entire scenario became extremely stupid after that. I dumped an entire gallon of milk all over them and chucked everything humanly possible within grabbing range. Looking back, it was kind of awesome clocking the chick in the head with a package of hot dogs, and no matter how soft bread is, it hurts when you throw a loaf of it squarely at a man's balls. They left half naked in the snow. I never returned the belongings they left behind, and he's now married to her, so heck if I know what happened. I'm sure they can tell their kids that they bonded over groceries. Came home early from night shift to find her in bed with what I originally thought might have been her mom. Walked up to the bed to make sure the alarm was set and noticed that either her mom was a little hairier than I thought or it was a guy. So I sat on the edge of the bed, turned the side lamp on thinking, okay, don't lose it, turned the bedside lamp on, turned the radio on the alarm clock up to max volume. She opens her eyes and looks up, looks over the other side of the bed, and the dude is starting to wake up. So I just look at her, shake my head sadly, got up and left. Didn't say a word. Left everything in the house and started anew. I walked in after a 10-hour shift at work, and they were both on the couch where she was under him. I walked into the kitchen and grabbed a glass of something to drink, walked back into the living room. I told him to stay a bit because she would need help moving out. I told her to pack her crap. Then I sat down in my chair and turned on the TV. It took all of an hour for her to get her crap. The dude left immediately. She bawled her eyes out while sitting at my feet. Commercials came on and I looked at her and asked, "What the hell are you still doing here?" I just shut down. It was a strange feeling, and for a moment in my life, I just didn't care. Walked over to her car and wondered why she wasn't getting out. When I got to the window, I saw her head in his lap. I froze, then turned around, walked back to my car, and punched it a few times. We had one of those relationships where we'd break up and get back together every couple weeks, and I guess we were technically off that weekend. But still, it felt like being punched for the next few days. We didn't get back together after that because I finally developed some self-respect. Came home early from visiting a buddy so I could surprise my girlfriend. I was the one that got the surprise. Found her and a dude asleep in my bed. So I calmly walked up to the side of the bed, gently woke her up and asked if she wanted pancakes. She must not have realized what was going on and said, "Hey baby, sure." And I said, "What about him? Does he like pancakes?" The look on her face was worth every second of the drama storm that kicked up after that. Got back from seeing my family down south and went to her house to let our dog out since she was at work and I wanted to see the pup. I walk in and hear noises coming from the bedroom and thought, well, that's odd. So I go to investigate thinking the dog was tearing something up. Open the door to see a fat ginger beard balls deep in my girlfriend. She makes eye contact and screams she's sorry. He looks bewildered and just overall confused, and the dog was barking and causing a fuss. I threw my hands up in the air and said, "F this," and walked out. Well, I came in and caught her red-handed creeping with the guy next door. Picture this. They were both butt naked, banging on the bathroom floor. How could she forget that she had given me an extra key? Worst part, all this time I was standing there, she never took her eyes off me. My buddy was dating a girl for a year. Came back to her apartment one night and found a dude in her bed with her. So he did the only logical thing, pissed all over them, and then forced himself to puke on them all before they woke up. Man, college had some great memories. I broke, man. I literally felt something in me die. This was 5 years ago, and only in the last 8 or 9 months have I felt better about it. I walked into my apartment, and her ex-husband were in my bed, which was a huge FU to me, because they both had their own places. So I walk in, see them, grab him by the throat, I know, and drag him outside and throw him into the parking lot. I'm a big dude, I'm 6'8", 220 pounds, so I throw him into the parking lot, and she's yelling at me, "Please don't kill him." WTF? I just want him out of my house. I wasn't gonna hurt him or kill the guy. She's running around, picking up her things and his things and shouting excuses at me like, "Oh, it was just a one-time thing," or "We were bored and it was a mistake," or "We were drinking this morning and this was stupid." Who frickin' drinks in the morning anyway? I just looked at her and said, "Don't ever speak to me again. You frickin' disgust me." Then I fell onto my couch and cried. She was standing there watching me, and she tried to walk over and hug me because now she's crying too. But I pushed her away from me. I cried nonstop for the rest of the day, fell into a deep depression, started doing painkillers, drinking, pretty much every drug I could get my hands on. I felt so bad mentally that it was so physically crippling. The hardest part wasn't even breaking up with her. It was not talking to her daughter, who was going to be my stepdaughter. I was even saving to buy the ring. Me and her were buds, man. We went everywhere together. I took her to preschool. We'd go to the mall every Friday and get ice cream. I'd buy her some toys or some clothes, whatever struck my eye. I've since moved to a different state, got a good job, got my life back together, and have an amazing girlfriend. She looks at me with love, and I look at her, and I see hope in her eyes. It took years, but things finally actually turned around.